was a non-traditional student. So after I got my bachelor's degree in nutrition and dietetics, I decided to take a 1.5 years off of school. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So this month, September, I celebrate 5 years of being a registered and licensed dietitian. So today, in celebration of that, I want to share with you how to become a registered dietitian. So becoming a registered dietitian is not as hard as people may think. Yes, it does require commitment, it requires drive, it requires actually losing your social life for a little bit, but in the end, it all pays off. So the first thing that you want to do when becoming a dietitian, you want to obtain at least a minimum of a bachelor's degree. The degree may change. It may not be a bachelor's degree any longer. It may be a requirement of a master's degree. But as of this time, a minimum of a bachelor's degree is required. Now there's 2 ways on how to go about obtaining this bachelor's degree. The first way is, number 1, enroll yourself at a community college. Reasons being, at the community college, you're going to do your first 2 years, your associates, the basics. You're going to get rid of all your humanities and English classes, your Gordon Rule classes. You're going to get rid of your basic science classes, your introduction to nutrition, your basic anatomy classes, your basic chemistry classes. And then afterwards, you want to apply to an accredited university. So the reason why you want to apply to an accredited university is because there's some universities out there which are not, they do not meet the standards, the criteria to issue you a bachelor's of science degree in nutrition and dietetics. So that is the first way. The second way to go about getting your bachelor's degree is to go ahead and apply right to the accredited college or university that you do want to attend. Now, a list of those universities and schools that are accredited, all of that is going to be in my description box below. So everything that I am saying, there's links below that you. So the main difference in going to a community college versus going to directly to the university and enrolling yourself in this program is cost, money. Money is a factor. The route that I went, I didn't go to a community college because I got a full ride scholarship. But there's nothing wrong with community colleges. If I didn't get a full ride scholarship, you bet I was going to be right up in that community college. So when you're in the program, as I said earlier, when you're getting your bachelor's degree, the minimum of a bachelor's degree, there is a lot of core science classes that you do need to take. And I hope I'm not mixing up things because I actually did a dual degree, but you want to take your intro to chemistry, your gen chem. I took chemistry 1, chemistry 2, organic chemistry, biochemistry, microbiology. No, I think I took my I don't remember if I took my microbiology for my other degree, but you want to get the basics, the basic foundation of your sciences. And to be honest with you, a lot of people are scared of the sciences, but it's not anything to be afraid of. If you have that commitment, if you have that drive that I was speaking about earlier, then it should be okay. You are going to have to get rid of your personal life for a little bit, put that on hold, but in the end, everything does pay out. And then the last 2 years, working towards the bachelor's degree aspect, that's when you actually dive into your metabolism classes, your medical nutrition therapy classes, your food service, food management classes. Those are really the core basic classes that you would need in your profession as a dietitian. So, internship. The internship process is actually a very, very lengthy one. And again, there is a link in my description box below. It's a multi-part process. And again, as I said, I've been a dietitian for 5 years. So 5 years ago, the process may have been a little different. But the first thing you want to do, you want to go on Eat Right Again and look at those places which do provide an internship. And it is 1,200 hours of supervised practice internship. Some of them are free and some of them range up into $20,000 depending if you're getting a master's degree while you are doing it. I actually, because I'm cheap, I didn't have the money, I decided to go to the Department of Veteran Affairs. And to be honest with you, my GPA was a 3.75, and I kept hearing all these things saying, oh, in order to apply to one of these programs, you need a 4.0, you need this, you need that. And I did not have any of that. To be honest with you, I was a non-traditional student. So after I got my bachelor's degree in nutrition and dietetics, I decided to take a year and a half off of school, because during this time I was like, you know what, Kim, I really don't know much about nutrition, I don't know much about dietetics, I want to see what I'm going to get myself into. So what I did, I volunteered for a year and a half. Actually, I got a little stipend, and I worked with an underserved population, the Mexican population, and I taught them everything I knew about eating healthy and monitoring their blood pressure and carb counting for those that had diabetes, and weight loss, and increasing your fruit and vegetable intake, and everything, all the basics that I had learned in my 4-year degree. So when I actually applied for my internship, you have to write a personal statement, and I included all of this in my internship because I knew my science background wasn't as strong as I wanted it to be. So I really played up in my personal letter my work with an underserved population. And also something that was beneficial at that is the internship that I applied for with the government, with the Department of Veteran Affairs, focused on health disparities within the underserved population. So they could see that I had really done my research into volunteering with an underserved population, being committed, as I mentioned earlier, and spending a year and a half of my life trying to correct the poor eating habits and the poor lifestyle habits, and encourage people to monitor their blood sugars and monitor their blood pressures. There's recommendation letters that you have to get from your professors, from people that you've worked with, from peers. You have to write a personal statement. You have to have the money for some of the internships require you to have like an admissions fee of ranging from $50 to $75. So you got to save up for that as well. And you go on the computer and you rate your top choices 1 to 10. Now, I know some people told me, well, I only picked, 2 choices because I knew I was gonna get in. I didn't know if I was gonna get in, to be honest with you. So I picked 10 choices, and out of those 10 choices, about 7 of them were VA hospitals, and I got into a VA hospital in St. Louis, Missouri. Thank you, St. Louis. The way that it works, the internship process is a very, very, very competitive process. The reason for that is even though you rank your choices, the schools which you apply to also rank you, and you're only matched to 1. So I applied for the St. Louis, and I also applied for UCLA. I didn't get into UCLA because I actually listed St. Louis as like my top 2 or top 3 choice. I'm from Florida, so my top choice was actually at the VA in Florida, but I didn't get into that, so I got into St. Louis instead. When you rank your top choices, the internship program also ranks you, and you're only matched to 1. You're not matched to 2, so you don't know where you stood in regards to the others. But when you are doing your interviewing process, they're going to throw out like little key points. Like I know one interview I had, the internship director of that facility actually told me, Kim, you're going to get in. You have a very strong background in already communicating with people and working with them, and depending on what you write in your personal resume, they want all that information. They're going to ask you for it. And as well, they asked me other questions about my stance on high fructose corn syrup. I remember that one specifically. They asked you your stance on like certain fad diets. Like I'm from Florida, so they asked me about the South Beach diet, my take on that. They asked me about at that time it was healthy people 2010. Now it's healthy people 2020. So these are just some little tips. My personal letter, I feel as well, was very strong, because in my personal letter, that's the way to kind of build up yourself. So I still remember my first line of my personal letter. It said, a dash of coconut milk, a sprig of thyme, and a teaspoon of salt is the ingredients my Jamaican grandmother told me how to make rice and peas. So I wanted these people to know that I was coming from a whole entire different background, because as you know, the profession, well, if you didn't know, the profession of dietitians is predominantly Caucasian females, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what's going to make your letter look a little different? And the matching process, the matching day is actually April 1st. So on April 1st, you find out where you're matched. So April 1st, I definitely went on the website and made sure I clicked accept so that I can start my internship. Now, the whole entire internship process is an intense process. They are coaching you, and I thought the VA did an absolutely fantastic job, because as I stated before, I took nearly a year and a half, 2 years off of school, so I was definitely rusty. They drill you. My internship process, I was blessed. There were 6 interns to about 22 dietitians. So you can I could have turned to any single dietitian. I had their cell phone numbers and said, hey, you know, well, I'm in my cardiac rotation, I'm in my school rotation, I'm in my peds rotation, I'm in my intro nutrition support rotation, and I have no clue what's going on. What do I do? What does this mean? And they were very warm and very welcoming. My internship had a 99% passing rate at the time. And I thought, to be honest with you, I was gonna be one of those dietitians that did not pass. I just definitely underestimated myself again, because I was like, well, you know, you guys are fresh out of school. You guys have been in school the last 4 to 6 years, and I'm coming off a hiatus, and I have just the bare minimum. So I was kind of rusty, but it all paid out in the end. So after you do your internship, which as I said earlier, which is 1,200 hours of supervised practice, know that this 1,200 hours is not paid for. But if you do apply to the VA, you do get a stipend, and that's what I lived off. I lived very, very frugally. Then afterwards, you have to, during my internship, towards the end, all of us decided to look for jobs, because you become RD eligible, meaning you can apply for a job. Depending where you apply, they can either give you a job or not give you a job, but the dietitian on board has to review and co-sign all your notes by law. So I started applying for a job, and I got a job. So before I actually took my test, I got a job, and I was actually working in my job for about 4 months before taking my test. And as I look back, 4 months is actually a very, very long time. But if I would do it, I'll probably work maybe 2-3 months. But I'm very grateful, because I knew my weak point at that time was the medications. And I learned about the medications as I started seeing patients and looking at the disease condition and understanding the disease process and understanding medical nutrition therapy and individualized health care, personalized health care. So it actually paid off, because when I took my test, I felt like I was taking a pharmacology examination. They asked me about Solumedrol, they asked me about Clinimax and propofol and all these medications, which I'm very grateful that my first job, which is actually still my current job, taught me about and prepared me for the exam. I thought I was going to get a lot of food service. I thought I was going to get a lot of medical nutrition therapy, but I got a little bit of that. My examination was mostly dealing with drugs and how the drugs interact with different nutrients. And it was a treat. So after you take your examination, your boards, you need to be licensed in the state that you live. Depending what state you live, of course, you need to be licensed. Not all states require licensure, but the state that I do live in, Florida, does require a registration and a licensure. The licensure is very, very easy. nothing difficult at all. So after that whole entire process, you have to do continuing education units, CEUs. So a dietitian is required to have 75 CEUs for every 5 years they are a dietitian. So these CEUs, basically they're very easy. They're not hard at all. Some of them are paid for, some of them are free. All my CEUs, either my company pays for them or they're free. I'm very frugal. It's your choice, your choice. You log your CEUs and you submit your CEUs for approval or for rejection. So recently I submitted all my CEUs. I remember my internship director, Amy, always told us students to have more than 75. So I actually had 96 when I submitted them. And when you submit your CEUs, CDR, which is the place that you submit your CEUs to, they review it and they can either reject or accept your CEUs. Now the reason why they can reject it is because you have like a professional development portfolio. So you say for the next 5 years, this is what I want to learn. And if your CEUs do not correspond with your professional development portfolio, then they're like, there's a mismatch here. You didn't tell us that you wanted to learn this, and reject. Now in that process, you can also readjust your professional development portfolio, but I decided, you know what, I'm not even going to touch it. So as a dietitian, there's actually many different types of practices that a dietitian can go into. I am a clinical dietitian. I do work in a hospital and I see a variety of medical and surgical patients. I see patients dealing with things such as kidney stones, diabetes, diverticulitis, wounds, high blood pressure, those that are intubated, sedated. And you can be a renal dietitian as well, which is a specialty. There's corporate dietitians. There's dietitians that work in the nursing home, the long-term care units, which I have done as well. I've held 2 jobs at one time, simply for learning purposes, because I didn't want to lose what I learned, especially as a renal dietitian. In my renal rotation, that's a rotation I didn't get. So this is just the nitty-gritty on how to become a dietitian. Again, as I said, it takes motivation, it takes commitment, it takes giving up your personal life for a very short period of time, because in the end, it all pays out. Thank you for watching. Remember to like as well as subscribe. If you have any questions related to the internship process or the education process or the job process or the CEU process, please leave a comment below. And also remember to check out the different links of the different processes that I spoke about. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good day. Bye. Gluten sensitivity, wheat allergy, and celiac disease. What is the difference between these 3 things? Let's find out.